I have 4 very practical questions that you can ask yourself today that will help you work through your stress. So I have really been stressed out lately. I've had a lot of stresses in my life that have become overwhelming for me, so much so that I'm almost not functioning. And so I kind of was able to look at that and go, whoa, let's hold on here. I'm getting a little too stressed out. So I wanted to ask myself some questions so that I can work through my stress and be able to manage it a little bit better. Because as you probably know, we're going to have stress all our lives. Every day we're going to have a certain stress. And there are some stresses that we can manage, but sometimes when there's so many stresses, it's hard to manage them. So I want you to think for a moment that all of your stresses right now, I have about 6 of them, are all in my head, and they're all in this big round global world. This is the only thing in my world right now are these 6 stresses. And I want you to just pull that globe down, and I want you to make 6 tiny little globes, and I want you to place each one of those stresses in those little tiny globes, little compartments. And I want you to be able to deal with one at a time. So in order to do that, you need to sit down with yourself for a few minutes and either write these answers out to these questions, or I need you to say them out loud. And for me, I practiced this the other day, and I said it out loud because I'm by myself. So I was able to ask myself these questions, and I really worked through it, and I was a little bit shocked that I felt a lot better afterwards. So being able to identify the source of your stresses so that you can move forward with these stresses in a different way. So the first question is, to identify the source of your stress, you need to ask yourself what started it. So that's question number 1. What started this stress? So for example, one of my stresses was that I had the opportunity to get more clients, and I said no. And as an entrepreneur, who in their right mind would ever say no to that? But here's where the stress came in. I was actually toying with like the dilemma of I want these clients, but I can't do it. And what happened for me was when I sat down and asked myself, what's the source of this stress, was that I talked to myself about 10 years ago, and I vowed that I would always close my computer at 5 p.m. And the problem I'm having with this clientele base, they're from 5 to 7 at night. And I thought, well, nope, I close my computer at 5. I've made that vow to myself. That's my belief system for my balance, for being an entrepreneur. I don't think people need me at night. I think everyone can use everyone else in the morning. And my greatest time of working is between 8 and noon. So I want to make sure that I'm alive and awake. And if I'm working at 7, I have all these excuses. If I'm working till 7, then I'll be yawning in front of them, and that's not cool. So I was saying no to these clients, but my husband's like, you get free clients here, so how can you say no? And I go, because this is so stressful. I'm so stressed out because my value system has stated that in order to have balance in my entrepreneurial lifestyle, I need to close my computer at 5. And that's where my stress started. So I was able to say that out loud. Now I wanted to be able to ask myself the second question, which is describe how I felt physically and emotionally. If I add up all my stresses, they're pretty much the same physically. So all of these stresses equal not being able to breathe. My throat has been very tight. You know when it's so tight? I was even talking really weird, like low and ready to cry. It's all sitting right there, ready to burst. And my chest was so extremely heavy. Could barely breathe, can't take a deep breath. It was just really heavy. My shoulders have been really tight in the last few days too. So I was able to describe that physically, look what's happening. And every time I think of one of these stresses, I get butterflies in my stomach. So I'm noticing all of these elements in my body, and it's just wreaking havoc on me. So I also wanted to know what I was going through emotionally. So describe how you felt emotionally. Well, really torn. Because my value system said, close your computer at 5, and then money says work. So that was really hard for me. And it was a dilemma for me to have to deal with this because I had such a strong value system. The third question you're going to ask yourself is, how have you reacted? Well, for me, I was not able to function very well. So I had to find things that took me away from the stress. And we all know these really simple, actionable remedies: taking a bath, having tea, watching a comedy, going for a walk, exercising or hiking, or listening to music, or having essential oils all over you, or candles lit, and having a glass of wine. So these are all those ones that we are go-to. But what these are, they're all really helpful. They do help reduce our stress, that cortisol level that's all hyperactive. It's kind of a band-aid. And after I had a bath the other night, well, there came the stress again. And we need to have those times of relaxation. So continue doing those things. But because I want to talk about managing your stress, then you need to talk it out or write it out. How have I reacted? I isolated myself. I didn't call any friends. I went into myself a little bit too much. So I was like thinking of all of these crazy scenarios. I was crying a lot. That's just a lot of reactivity going on. I play games on the computer, so I was lost in that world for a while. So now I've understood that a little bit, how I've reacted. I want to ask myself the fourth question, and that is, what am I doing, or what did I do to relieve the stress? And I removed myself. I went internal. I accepted what is. So what am I doing to relieve this stress? I want to look at a different perspective because I cannot say no to clients. I had the motto in my head as well that, as long as you have your values, it doesn't mean you'll always win, but at least you're holding on to those values. Well, values are also meant to be tweaked from time to time. And absolutely that value worked for me 10 years ago when I was a travel agent. Now, can I close my computer to clients? I don't want to. So I was able to reframe and look at my expectations of the job opportunity, and being able to acknowledge that, okay, well, I had this and I valued this boundary that I put up for myself, but I'm going to tweak it a little bit because it's no longer serving its purpose. My husband comes home at 4, he can take the dogs. That's great. I feel a lot less stressed. I actually feel a little bit excited about working in the evening because it's something different. So these are kind of the questions you want to ask yourself and sit with yourself and be able to be honest with yourself and be honest with yeah, I totally had this value and it really worked for me, but is it working now? Okay, well, let's just tweak it maybe or get a different perspective. We have to come to this conclusion ourselves. So if somebody tells us what to do, great, but we are individuals and we want to do our own thing. So make sure that you figure those things out for yourself by asking yourself what started it, describe how you felt emotionally and physically, and ask yourself, how have I reacted to this? And what am I doing, or what did I do to relieve this stress? These 4 questions have really supported me and helped me work through. Being able to talk it out was so incredibly helpful for me. So I want to encourage you to do that. Answer these 4 questions. Make sure that you sit with yourself and either write these questions and answers down or talk to yourself about them, because then you'll be able to compartmentalize them and put them somewhere. Sit with this and be able to identify the source of your stress so that you can move forward and manage your stresses. My name is Jackie Frasch. I'm a registered professional counselor, and I'm just wanting to give you as many tools and practical tips for you to use in your daily life so that you can move forward with healthy ideas, boundaries, be able to manage your stress the way that you would do it. Talk to you soon.